welcome you. All right, won't be long.
They're expected to voice concerns about the impact a landfill would have on their lives. After the two-day hearing, the municipality's Subdivision and Development Appeal Board will have 30 days to make a written decision. Jamie Malbuff, CBC News, Fort McMurray.
Overseas now, where heavy fighting continues in northeastern Syria as Turkey tries to flush out Kurdish militias. The Turkish military says it has killed dozens of militants since the offensive began yesterday and seized a number of targets. Meanwhile, Kurdish forces report there were also deaths among civilians, and tens of thousands are fleeing their homes to escape the fighting. While that's going on, the United Nations Security Council is holding an emergency meeting on Syria today, and Melissa Kent has those details.
Today's meeting was requested by the 5 European members of the Security Council. The EU has come out very strongly against the Turkish offensive, saying it undermines stability in the whole region. Turkey rejects the criticism. In a letter to the Security Council, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the offensive is about self-defense and that its actions would be, quote, proportionate, measured, and responsible. The area under attack is controlled by the Kurdish-led forces who helped the U.S. defeat ISIS, but Ankara sees them as a terrorist group and a security threat. Russia, for its part, is offering itself as a mediator between Damascus and Ankara and blames the U.S. for this military action. President Donald Trump rejects accusations the U.S. helped greenlight this operation after pulling its troops from the region. Melissa Kent, CBC News at the United Nations in New York.
That's the latest CBC News. Turning now to the weather situation. First of all, in the Edmonton area, sunny today and a high of 6 degrees. Clear tonight, a low of -6. Tomorrow, a bit warmer, sunny and a high of 9. Increasing cloudiness on Saturday, a high of 8. Sunday, periods of rain and a high of 6. At Grand Prairie, sunny today, a high of 5. Fort McMurray clearing this afternoon, a high of +4. At Jasper, sunny.
Our live election town hall. This is a special edition of Alberta at Noon. I'm Judy Aldis. About 10 days left until Canada votes.
I think the Alberta economy is in a bit of a scary place, so that's on my mind.
Climate change issue, I think, has got to come forward.
Getting Trans Mountain Pipeline built is a very important part of it.
Obviously, environment, jobs, and middle-class concerns.
Some Albertans there saying what matters to them in this election. And what about you? Do you have a question, something you want answered before you vote? We have candidates from all 5 parties up on stage here with me today, ready to give you some answers. Well, first of all, hello to everybody out there in the audience. We have a full audience here. Great to see all of you here today. Quite a crowd. I know we have quite a few kids from schools who have come down. They're eating their lunch sitting over there on the ground. So thank you for that. And for all those of you taking time out from your busy days, we're really happy to see you here today. We are live on what we call Center Stage, CBC Edmonton in the City Centre Mall. So if you're just tuning in and you happen to know that you can make it to downtown Edmonton in the next hour, come on down. There's standing room only. But we'll be here until 1. We are, as we said, in the home stretch of this election, and I think it's fair to say that things are starting to heat up.
Mr. Trudeau, you are a phony and you are a fraud.
Mr. Scheer, and your plan is to rip up the only serious plan to fight climate change that Canada has ever had.
We must double our current target. We must listen to science. We must not build the Trans Mountain Pipeline. It's not.
We are the only party that is answering to the frustration that Albertans have here.
What we have here is Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Scheer arguing about who's worse for Canada. We got to start presenting who's going to be best for Canada.
All right, 5 leaders there from the main parties running in this election. That, of course, was from the leaders' debate earlier this week. And let me just say before we get started, we likely won't have a repeat of much of that because, we're going to allow people an opportunity to talk. We have a full hour here, so we will cover a lot of ground. And as I mentioned, we have a candidate from each of the 5 main parties on stage for this special edition of the show to speak with you. So we will introduce them, starting first right here on my right, Randy Boissonnault. He is running for re-election as the Liberal candidate in the riding of Edmonton Centre. Beside him, Tyler Beauchamp. He is the candidate for the People's Party of Canada in Sturgeon River Parkland, and he drove in from Devon, you said, right, for the show, so thank you for that. Heather McPherson. She is running as an NDP in the seat of Edmonton Strathcona. James Cumming. He is the Conservative, running also in the trying to beat out Randy Boissonneau here for the riding of Edmonton Centre. And finally, we have Michael Kalmanovich. You know which party he's with because he has a tie, if you can't see right now, that says Green Party. Michael is running as well in the riding of Edmonton Strathcona. So first of all, thank you to all of you for coming down here today. We really appreciate your time. So if you are tuning in on the radio or whatever method you have of listening to us today, whether it's on the radio, whether you're watching online, whether you're here in person, as I mentioned, we're glad to have you with us. You have a chance to ask them tell them what's important to you as you decide who you're going to vote for. Ask a specific question. For those of you in the crowd, and I think most of you know this already, but if you have a question, there's a little white sheet of paper that was on your chair when you arrived. Just jot down your question and then raise your hand. And Tara and Emily, who are standing over there, they've got their hands raised. Just call them over and you can give your question to them. We are still a phone-in show for the day, so if you want to call our toll-free line, it's a different number today. So here, I'll give it to you a few times, and you can write it down. The number for today is 1-877-456-8477. Here it is again, 1-877-456-8477. And we are also on CBC Edmonton Facebook page today, so you can send a message there as well. I always say this, but if you want to be part of the program today on whatever venue you choose, my advice is less preamble, more question. Much more likely to get an answer to your question if you keep your comments short. All right. So we'll get started today with the same question for every candidate. You each have a minute to answer. We did a random draw as to the order in which you'll speak. And so Randy Boissonneau from the Liberal Party of Canada, you are first, and the question, of course, is why should Albertans support your party? Randy Boissonneau.
Well, thanks very much. My name is Randy Boissonneau, and 4 years ago, you sent me to Ottawa to be a strong voice for Edmonton. And I've stood up for Edmonton, and I've stood up for Alberta. We got TMX underway. We cut child poverty in half in 4 years. And there's still so much more to do. We need to address the climate change crisis. And we know that we have a plan that is ambitious and we can implement it. And the Conservative Party doesn't care about the issue and has no plan. We want to make sure that there's a pharmacare program across this country so nobody has to choose between medicine and their meals. This election, we want to make sure that we can fight the fight to end homelessness. And this election is going to come down to a choice between going to the failed policies of the past and cuts or a government that is choosing forward. I want to keep building up this city. I want to keep building up this province, and I'm ready to serve you for 4 more years.
There you go, right to time there. Randy Boissonneau from the Liberal Party of Canada, thank you for that. We'll pass things over to Heather McPherson. She's running for the federal NDPs. Heather.
Thanks, Judy. So I have spent the last 25 years of my life working, fighting for Albertans. I've worked with them at the provincial level, the federal level, the international level. I've been on the Canadian delegation to the United Nations, and I've spent an awful lot of time in Ottawa fighting for Albertans. I'm incredibly proud of what the NDP has proposed in terms of having the very best platform to address climate change, the very best platform to bring workers along as we go. We have the platform that will actually get us pharmacare. We've been waiting 22 years for pharmacare to be a reality. Let's get this done. Let's make sure that we have dental care available to all Canadians, that mental care that we so desperately need is available. You know, we have the best plan for protecting post-secondary institutions and making sure students can attend university. And I think we've got the best plan for seniors. I think it's time. We've had term after term of people protecting the corporations, not protecting Albertans, not protecting us, and that's what I'd like to do.
Right, Heather McPherson from the NDP. All right, James Cumming, you have 1 minute. James, of course, with the Conservative Party Canada, to answer the question, why should people vote for your party?
So 4 years ago, I ran in the election, and now I fast forward to today. Knocked on over 60,000 doors, and the common theme I hear from people is that they're struggling. They can't get ahead. Our party has come up with an affordable program to help people get ahead. That's what I hear at the doors constantly. We can do that while growing the economy. We can do it by protecting the environment. And for sure, our party will always protect the rights of everybody. I'm excited to want to be able to represent you. I've lived my entire life in this riding. I have my kids were raised in this riding, and this is home for me. And I will work with all my heart to make sure that I can create a better life for Edmontonians, for people in Edmonton Centre, and most importantly for our province, which I feel there's been policies that really hurt people trying to get ahead.
Thank you, James. All right, Michael Kalmanovich with the Green Party of Canada. Over to you.
Great. Thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. That was very good. I would like to first acknowledge that we're on the indigenous lands of the people that lived here for eons. But my name's Michael Kalmanovich. I'm running for the Green Party for Edmonton Strathcona, and I believe that we have the best plan for the climate crisis, to address the climate crisis. The NDP's does come the second, and nobody else does come close. For one thing, the other parties up here want to expand burning of fossil fuels at the same time as saying, we'll take care of the environment. You cannot increase the amount of burning of fossil fuels while addressing climate change. It's a no-winner. So I want to fight for those young people whose it's their world in the future, and not for the past. The future now. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, Tyler Beauchamp from the People's Party of Canada. You have a minute, and again, the question is, why should Albertans support you and your party?
Well, I'd like to start by saying thank you to all the Albertans in the crowd today, as well as listening live. We're here today expressing our freedom of expression, beliefs, and thoughts. My name is Tyler Beauchamp. I'm out in Sturgeon River Parkland representing the People's Party of Canada. I just wanted to clarify to the audience that I am not a professional politician. This is my first live forum. I've done a couple out in the farm country, which were great, but this is really new to me. Before we speak about the PPC platform later today, I'd just like to say I am Christian, I'm a family man, I am educated, and I am pro-life. And I absolutely love Alberta oil and gas. I spent the last 10 years in the oil and gas market, and I plan on spending a lot more. If elected on October 21st, my priorities are going to be to force the construction of the pipelines using 9210 of our Constitution. I plan on protecting our veterans, and I also do plan on reopening the conversation on abortion, because 30 years is way too long without regulations.
All right, we're keeping the conversation here, respectful. So Tyler Beauchamp, thank you so much for joining us and for this, your first live radio forum. All right, so you're listening to a special edition of Alberta at Noon. We are live, CBC Edmonton here at City Centre Mall. And again, we have candidates from the 5 main parties with us today for the hour. Conservative, a Liberal, NDP, Green, and a People's Party, ready to answer your questions. So remember, we're not focused specifically on issues at the riding level. Each of them has agreed to join us here to sort of represent their party. So once again, if you're in the audience and you have a question, just wave your hand and Tara or Emily will come and find you. You can call in today as well. So here again is the toll-free number. It's different. So if you are one of those my favorite people, and you have us on speed dial, you'll want to change the number for today. It is 1-877-456-8477. Again, 1-877-456-8477. We're also on CBC Edmonton Facebook. You can send a message there, a question. We are receiving emails as well, alberta@noon@cbc.ca. We won't, I can tell you right now, be able to get through all of the questions, but there'll be sort of repeats, so I think you'll probably hear your concerns addressed at least at some point today. So the way we sort of set it up with our candidates is that we will take each question, direct it. Most of you have said, the people who are in touch have told us who you want to address it first. They'll each have 45 seconds, and then we'll spend a few minutes just sort of covering the topic with all the candidates at once. All right. Should we take our first call? Ready to go here? All right, we have Mike on the phone with us from Calgary. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Glad to have you with us. All right, Mike, you are live with us here on Alberta at Noon. What is your question today for this special edition of our program?
Okay, I feel I have no choice but to vote for the Conservatives because every other party wants to destroy our oil industry and therefore lives. Therefore, I and many others feel the candidates of the other parties are traitors to Alberta. Convince me otherwise.
All right. Thank you, Mike. You want to stay with us, Mike? We'll get the candidates to answer your question for you. All right. Strong question straight out of the gate there. Randy Boissonneau, would you like to start us off there? Question being the sense that Mike has that every other party wants to destroy the oil industry, and I think he even used the word traitor. How would you respond to someone like Mike?
So, Mike, I'm a lifelong Albertan. I was born at the Edmonton General. I grew up in Morinville, and my family have been laborers in and out and around the oil and gas sector all their lives. And I can tell you there's 4.5 billion reasons why our government cares about Alberta and Alberta oil, and that's what we invested to get the Trans Mountain Pipeline built. There will be 4,200 people working on the line by December, 10,000 by next summer, and we have spent 4 years cleaning up the mess left with us by the Conservatives when nothing was built at Tidewater. There was no framework that could approve a new project. We've got $40 billion being built for an LNG facility in BC. We care about Alberta. We care about Alberta oil.
All right. Thank you, Randy Boissonneau. I'll open the floor. Heather McPherson, your party platform, the NDP party, calls for opposition to Trans Mountain Pipeline, for phasing out of oil sands. So how would you respond to someone like Mike who says that
I think it's really interesting that Mike was talking about how he would support the Conservatives because, like Randy said, the Conservatives didn't get the job done. We've been pushing for this pipeline for 10 years and it's never been built because the process is so broken. Harper eviscerated our entire environmental legislation, so we knew it wasn't going to get through the courts. Trudeau ran on that. He ran on fixing that process. That process is still not fixed, and we're still in the courts. From my perspective, I'm happy to support any energy project that goes through the approval process that is in line with our obligations under UNDRIP, that is aligned with our constitutional obligations. Let's fix the process and let's get some of these projects through.
But the federal NDPs oppose Trans Mountain Pipeline. Are you saying that you stand apart from your party on that?
You know what I say is if that process was approved, that I would absolutely be able to support that pipeline. But that process is so broken right now that we know we don't align with UNDRIP. We know we don't align with any of our constitutional obligations, and we're stuck in the courts. We've been there for 10 years.
All right, Michael Kalmanovich, as a party, obviously opposed to the pipeline. What would you say to someone like Mike, who thinks that a party like yours is out to destroy the oil industry?
I guess so, yes. In the long term, tomorrow you won't lose your job. The fossil fuel industry is not going to die tomorrow, or if we were elected as a majority, which probably won't happen. But the reality is that this is coming. The energy is evolving, and we will not be needing fossil fuels in the future. Okay, so get ready for that. The Liberals are supportive of the fossil fuel industry. The Conservatives are. They are token to the fossil fuel corporations, which they don't have the best intentions of Albertans. They're just wanting profits. Rip out our oil, make gobs amount of money, and leave us with, 28,000 abandoned oil wells? Come on.
And I think what we also haven't seen is the diversification of our economy. So when we put all our eggs in one basket, we're not diversifying, and we're making people go through this bust-boom economy that doesn't help Albertans at all.
Can I just bring Mike? Mike in Calgary, are you listening in at all?
Yep.
All right. Anything you want to add to what you're hearing?
Well, one who said about, Conservatives haven't got the pipeline done in 10 years, I'm like, ask yourself, have your parties been fighting against it?
All right.
No. The short answer is no. We don't fight against pipelines. We approved Keystone XL. We approved Enbridge Line 3, both of which are almost finished. The Trans Mountain Pipeline is being built right now. And we invested $100 million into the Clean Resource Innovation Network that operates out of Calgary and Edmonton so that this sector can get cleaner and greener. There is no person in this party that is saying that we are going to shut down communities in Alberta or Saskatchewan to end the oil sands. That would be ridiculous, it would be harmful, and we're simply not going to do it. We've already shown what we can do with communities with the phase out of coal. And it's a just transition, and none of the mayors that I've met with in those communities have said we want a handout. What they want is a hand up, and that is why the infrastructure funding matters, and that is why the skills training matters. This is a long-term process, and we are on a path to get to 2050 net zero emissions, which does not mean shutting down industries. It means continuing to develop what we have, but also doing carbon offsets on the other side. And I know you're in a tough spot, Heather. I know you're in a tough spot with Jagmeet, who wants to shut down the system, and you're an Alberta New Democrat trying to get elected.
I don't think that's true. I don't think he has actually said he wants to shut down the system. I think he says that we need a good, strong process.
He totally blanched when we talked about LNG on the debate the other day. It was like somebody, shot his dog. Like, he just couldn't believe that that party approved, in BC, approved that project. We have to be clear. The energy and the economy and the environment go together.
I want to jump in here for a second. First of all, James Cumming, I do have a sort of a follow-up question I can direct at you in just a minute. But Tyler Beauchamp, you haven't had a chance to weigh in yet on this topic.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt and have another leaders debate like we had the other day.
Okay.
But I do know I am the only person sitting here today that believes in using 9210 of our Constitution to force the construction of pipelines. Waiting 10 years for an energy corridor is unacceptable. We cannot stand that long here in Alberta and survive. I've been around a long time. In 2015, I lost my business when the oil and gas market crashed. So you can't tell me you're looking to protect ourselves. The very first thing you do, you spend $4 billion on a pipeline and then put a tanker ban in BC. Please explain to me how that is beneficial to us.
All right, I do have an interesting question here because it came in as an email. It says the Trans Mountain Pipeline project has been blocked by issues before various courts. Despite being government approved. This comes from Bruce in Sherwood Park, first of all. He says, likewise, Northern Gateway failed to go ahead because of legal impediments. And he is interested in you, James Cumming, from the Conservative Party. How does your party plan to navigate these legal challenges to get pipelines built, specifically TMX?
Sure, it's got to show some leadership. So you have a duty to consult, and there has been consultations, but at some point you have to say, we're going to build a pipeline. When I hear Randy talk about TMX, we bought a pipeline. They bought a pipeline because they botched the process. You have private sector money that was willing to go ahead, and then it became such a ridiculous process that the government took it over, and now they're going through a process. I firmly believe that the idea of an energy corridor, albeit will take some time, is if we can get everybody on side, get Indigenous partners, get the provinces on side, make them partners. Pipelines are good for all of Canada. It will help us grow. It'll help us grow social programs. It's a way for us to be able to do more for people, and I fully support the energy industry in this province. They work hard. They're great at technology, and we can do this in an environmentally friendly way.
So you just want to have another kick at the can.
I'm just curious why the Conservative government will not use 9210 to force the build of pipelines.
James Cumming, do you want a chance to address that?
Well, I'm not sure that we wouldn't. After you get to a point in time where you've consulted, you make changes, you make sure that you have a pipeline that's safe. It's the safest way to move oil. So once you get to that point, if that's what it would take, I'm sure that our leadership would make sure that got done.
All right. Quick email message that's come in from Mike in Edmonton, who says, it's part of his email, not building Keystone Energy East TMX will not change oil consumption by one drop, not decrease global emissions. We will use the same amount of oil. That oil has to come from somewhere. We can get it from Canada through pipeline or from some other nation that dumps mercury and persistent organic pollutants directly into the ocean. And if the choice is in his mind between Canadian oil by pipeline or polluting nation by tanker, Canadian oil is by far the more environmentally friendly choice, hands down. Part of an email that came in there from Mike Holm in Edmonton, so thanks for that. If you're just tuning in or you're just walking by in the mall and wondering what's going on here, welcome to this special edition of Alberta at Noon. We're live here at the City Centre Mall, CBC Edmonton, having a live election town hall. Candidates from 5 parties are with us. Randy Boissonneau from the Liberals, Tyler Beauchamp from the People's Party of Canada, NDP candidate Heather McPherson, James Cumming from the Conservative Party of Canada, and Michael Kalmanovich from the Green Party of Canada. So thanks to all of you for joining in. If you want to give us a call, we are 1-877-456-8477. I did say we'd received a ton of emails, and here's one of them. The interesting question here. What is one policy or position of your party that you personally disagree with? How do you deal with differences of opinion with the party line, particularly when there are strong ethical implications? She didn't say who she wanted to answer that. Heather McPherson from the NDP, would you like to start that off? And if we could, I'm interested in the one policy or position of your party that you personally disagree with.
That's a really tricky question, actually. I think that our party's got this fantastic plan. I do think that, one of the things that I see is that we do, as Albertans, often get forgotten by all the federal parties. And I certainly feel like we do need to make sure that there is somebody fighting for us across the board, that there are people at all the tables fighting for Albertans. I guess if I had to think of a policy that we have,
well, I'm curious about Trans
Mountain.
Mountain. I'm not sure where you stand on that.
Yeah. So no, what I've been saying for the last 13 months, it feels like 13 years, 13 months, is that, I am very, very supportive of energy projects that go through a good consultation process, that adhere to our the UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and meet our obligations for our climate. And we haven't done that, which means that it goes back and forth into the courts. So if that is resolved, then I am in support of that. And certainly at the caucus table, the NDP caucus table, I would certainly be pushing to make sure that they recognize the important role that, the energy sector plays in Alberta. My husband works in the energy sector. My dad worked in the energy sector. We, for a long time, have been failing to diversify our economy. And so what we have here is, like I said earlier, all our eggs in one basket. It's not fair. It's not fair to put families at this risk where we have these boom and bust. And listen, this is a multi-trillion opportunity if we were to invest in green technologies. We really do need to start thinking about the future.
All right. I know it is a tough question, but we want to spend a few minutes exploring it. I think that the woman who emailed in the question is interested in what all of you think. Part of your party that you personally disagree with. Yeah, Randy Boissonneau.
Judy, I have 2.
All right.
I think it's unconscionable that the Conservative Party under Andrew Scheer whipped the vote in the Senate and caused our bill to enshrine the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples to fail in the Senate.
Right, but this is a question about your party.
Yeah, well, our party? What we don't like about my party?
Yeah, what you don't like about your party. She knows what you don't like about the other parties.
What don't I like about my own party?
What don't you like? One policy.
One policy of my own party that I don't like?
I know, see,
it's tough.
Oh, of course it's hard. That's why we...
James, I don't apologize for the comment, but I will take... Look, I think we can and need to move faster on ending the blood ban. I think we will do more, and we will get this right. I am not happy with how fast how long it takes for the science to be done. We're funding it. I wish we were at 0 now. We were at 5 when we formed government. We went to 1 year. We're now at 3 years. We will get to 0. It just simply can't happen fast enough.
James Cummings. Or Michael's ready to go here. Okay, Michael Kalmanovich from the Green Party.
So one of the things that Elizabeth May mentioned was that she would make post-secondary free for all students. I don't agree with that. I think that people value things when they pay even a nominal amount. But I don't think that secondary education should cripple PU. The same thing as medical costs should not cripple a person. We as a society need to make sure that those kinds of social services or those kinds of services are available and affordable and attainable for everyone.
Okay. Can I jump in, James Cumming? Interested in your...
Yeah, so the thing that comes to mind is, and I think it has happened with all political parties, the complexity of the Tax Act. I just think it's getting way too complicated. It's not a specific policy, but I think all parties are all trying to do so many different things through the Tax Act, and it is bloody confusing for the average person to be able to comply, to be able to file their taxes, and that's a direction that I would like to see us change.
Interesting. All right, Tyler Beauchamp from the People's Party.
I can say I've read our policies front and back, and I can't think of one that I don't support. There's honestly not one that doesn't follow.
Changes to immigration, are you behind the?
I'm behind that
vaccine?
100%. Like every platform piece we have is built on freedom, personal responsibility, fairness, and respect. Our whole party believes in that. Every candidate believes in that, and we want to fight for Canadians. There is not a policy that I would disagree with on our platform.
I think we have a question here from the live audience, quite a number of them, right? Tara, where are you there? There she is, Tara McCarthy at the back of the audience there. We have a question from our live audience. If someone can come on up. There's a gentleman who's going to walk up to the front stage. Yeah, come on up here so that Emily can pass you a microphone. And if you don't mind just telling us your name and then quickly what your question is today for the 5 candidates. All right, we are just setting things up here to take the question from the audience. Hello, thank you for coming down.
Hello, pleasure to be here. My name is Richard Uchuk. I'm an intern architect. I graduated with a master's degree 2 years ago, and in those last 2 years, I've only been able to find 5 months of work, and I need 2 years altogether to get my architectural license. The problem is Immigration Canada is bringing in many more experienced architects who are taking up entry-level jobs and displacing Canadian-born graduates like me. And at the moment, it looks like my only option is to leave Canada to get the work experience I need to get my architectural license. So my question is, what, if anything, can you do to correct the situation that could offer some protection for entry-level jobs for professional Canadian-born citizens like me, so I don't have to leave Canada to get my professional work experience?
Interesting question. Richard, is there one of the candidates up here that you would like to sort of answer the question off the top?
Tyler Beauchamp,
Okay.
People's Party.
All right, Tyler.
Thank you for the question. There's absolutely a lot we can do. Our plan on reducing immigration to 150,000 a year and focusing it on skill is just that. We don't want unfair competition from newcomers to Canada. We don't want to see a whole bunch of new people come to Canada to fill jobs that Canadians can do. Like they have to be vetted based on their skill for a skilled shortage in the country, not just because we want to bring in more people.
All right. Well, why don't we open this up to the plan? Did you have James Cumming?
Sure. I'm not sure that that's an immigration issue. I really think that we have to get the economy going so people like you can find a job so you can get ahead. It also sounds like we have accreditation issues so that you can't get into your profession quick enough. I believe that everybody here should have a absolutely great chance at advancing themselves and getting a job. And to hear that you're struggling with that tears my heart out. There's no way in Alberta that we should have that situation, and we need to focus on an economy that's growing so you can get to work.
I'll just say, how can anyone in Canada do that when we're bringing in the population in Nova Scotia every 3 years right now?
Yeah, Heather McPherson, do you want to jump in?
So yeah, I see that a little differently. First of all, I want to say I'm very sorry that you're in that situation. That's a very stressful and painful place to be. I'm really proud of the NDP because we do have a plan to put 300,000 new jobs in our economy in the next 4 years. I think that's one of the things that that James is saying. It's actually making sure our economy is growing and that we are diversifying our economy that will help people like you. In terms of immigration, I actually think that we are stronger for our immigration policy. I think we're stronger for letting people come and recognizing the strength that is diversity in Canada. As a young child, we actually had a Vietnamese boat person that came and stayed with our family. They now have a bakery in Mill Woods. Maya and her husband have children. They're contributing members of our community. I think it makes our community so much richer. I think what you're talking about is completely a different issue than what we're talking about in terms of immigration to Canada.
Randy Boissonneau, yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I want you to stay in Canada. My colleagues in the Liberal Party want you to stay in Canada. It's why we are investing $180 billion in infrastructure over 10 years. When we give $18 million to the Windspear for a $60 million build, it's so that architects like you can get their start in the field. When we put money into the TELUS World of Science or the Roxy or the Citadel, when we're building seniors' residences and affordable and social housing units, that is so that you can get a start. Companies are going to choose the best talent. And I can tell you, I cannot sit here and have any party use dog whistle politics to divide Canadians and say that Something is wrong with having the population of Nova Scotia come into our country every year. We need 1 million newcomers a year to come into this country just to offset the death rate that we have. We don't have enough kids being born here. And you cannot tell me that the newcomers that have built this country for the past 150 years are somehow not worthy of coming to our country. I will not stand for that. This country has been built on immigration, and it will continue to be.
I'd just like to know, when do Canadians come first?
Canadians always come first, and we are a wealthy enough and caring enough country that we can welcome people from around the world. We have 65 million people displaced because of war and famine and economic opportunities. I can tell you that when we have a record number of refugees, that is what I care about. That is what Canadians care about, and I will not listen to a party that sits here and tries to do dog whistle politics around something called mass immigration.
Well, I'm going to keep talking, but last I checked, only about 6% of our country believes in increasing our immigration level. We actually need to reduce the cost of living for our people so they can start having their own family.
Okay, we're going to move on from the issue of immigration. That was a great debate. Thank you for the questions that were emailed in. Once again, if you just happen to be tuning in and you hear things are a little different today, that's because we are live at City Centre Mall in Edmonton for this election town hall. We have candidates from each of the 5 main parties with us, and if you're tuning in on CBC Edmonton Facebook page, you can see them yourselves. We have Michael Kalmanovich from the Greens, James Cumming from the Conservative Party of Canada, Heather McPherson running for the NDP, Tyler Beauchamp from the People's Party of Canada, and Randy Boissonneau from the Liberals. All right. We have another question live from the audience now. Tara is out there with a microphone, a wandering microphone, and she has a question from a listener in the audience. Hello. Thank you, first of all, for joining us here on the show today.
Good afternoon. My name's Lorraine. The question is, what does your understanding of the job requirements of being an MP consist of?
That's a very good question. Is there someone in particular that you would like to answer that to start us off?
Actually, I'd like to have all 5 of them.
Sure. Well, James Cumming, would you like to start us off? And I have sort of an email as well that I might interject at some point that's along the same lines. But James Cumming.
Sure. My job as an MP is to represent you. That's the entire job. It's here to be for the citizens of Edmonton Centre and make sure that your views are heard, that the things that we put into policy helps you, and make sure that you have an opportunity to get ahead. So I'm here to listen to you, and that's what my job will be, whether I'm in Ottawa, whether I'm in Edmonton. That's what you'll get from me. You'll always get me listening to what your point of view is.
Heather McPherson, would you like to weigh in on that? The role, if you understand the role of what it means to be an MP?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have the best role model. Of course, Linda Duncan has been the Member of Parliament in Edmonton Strathcona for the last 11 years, and she really, for me, has represented what it means to be a good, excellent constituency representative. I think there's 2 roles. There's what you do in Ottawa and how you represent your constituency in Ottawa, how you fight for your constituency at caucus tables. But I also think it's vital what you do in your community, how you work with your constituents in Edmonton to support them as they negotiate different areas of the federal government, to support the community as a large, to be at events, to be in the community, to live in the community. I can tell you I plan on always living in Edmonton Strathcona.
Can I jump in, Heather? We did get an email, and I'll give you the sort of reduced version, not redacted, but the shortened version of it. But it was a gentleman who said he'd voted over the period of his life for every party at some point. He wasn't particularly affiliated with any one party, but that he had found that he had been trying to deal with a passport issue with his father and found it ridiculously complicated, that he tried to turn to his MP, that was getting nowhere with it. And he was curious about a lack of business skills. And the question was directed to you, Heather McPherson, and wondering whether you would have the skills necessary to run an office that could help out a constituent like his.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, like I said earlier, I have federal experience working at that level. I've taken an organization, the Alberta Council for Global Cooperation, which was a very small organization when I took it, and it is now a $1.7 million institution. I think I do actually have the experience to do that, and I have a mentor who is certainly one of the people that I think has done a great job doing this. You need to have those supports in your community. You need to have people present. You need to have people that are looking out for that can help you walk through some of those complex issues. And that's something I'm very excited to do.
All right, I do. We only have 17 minutes. Did Michael or Randy? Did you? Sure.
Sure, Judy.
I didn't throw it at you because you.
I've been doing it for 4 years. So, look, my business experience before I was an MP, my charity experience growing Literacy Without Borders helped. There is a lot of an MP's office that is social work and that is working for your interests. It's the passport issues. It's the immigration issues. It's working on somebody's taxes. It's working on somebody's old age security or GIS. It's also being the voice for you here and also being in touch with the community, which is why I come back every weekend. I don't have a house in Ottawa. I stay at the Delta Hotel. I'm not managing 2 properties. I live in Edmonton. That's where my home is. But I can tell you, and it's a brief story, I met Trudy at a homeless conference. She was there. At the end of it, she said, "Are you the MLA guy or the MP guy?" I said, "I'm the MP guy." She said, "What's your name?" "It's Randy." "What's your last name?" "Boissonneau." "Can you show me a business card?" I did. And she said, "You changed my life." I said, "What did we do?" She said, "I was homeless. I wasn't getting my disability benefits for 7 years. You got elected. Somebody said, go see the new Liberal guy. Maybe he'll help you." Your team sat down with me. They got the forms done. 4 months later, I came back to your office with a check because I'd never seen that much money in my life. I had $17,000. I didn't know what to do with it. I put a down payment on a condo. You got me off the streets.
James Cumming, you wanted to jump in.
So that's a great story, and I can tell you that as your MP, I'll make sure that I put a team in place and we deal with issues as they come up. As compelling as that story is, I can tell you, knocking on 60,000 doors, I've heard more often than not that people have a hard time getting in touch with their MP or getting in touch with their support staff. That's not right. So I can guarantee you, I've built businesses, I've been involved in the not-for-profit, and I'm going to make sure that we have a team in place to deal with the issues that come up day in and day out.
Michael, jump right in.
I actually think there's going to be a lot of boring meetings, and that kind of challenges me because I don't do very well sitting there listening to somebody sitting there and they're in Parliament and somebody's talking about something that I'm not really passionate about. So that will be a challenge for me. But I will do that because that is my job, and I will make sure that I honor those people that are bringing those issues up with the respect that it deserves. So,
all right.
It's not easy.
Let's take another phone call. Lyle is on the phone with us now from Edmonton. Hello, Lyle.
Hello.
Hello, Lyle. Tell us what you're thinking and the question that you have today for the show.
Okay. To start with, I'm fairly concerned about, my question is going to be for Mr. Boissonneau as the member for the Commons Justice Committee, and I'm concerned about the constitutional principles of prosecutorial independence and the rule of law. So in light of the findings of the Ethics Commission in regards to that SNC issue, and now a potential RCMP investigation that may follow after the election, does he regret his Justice Committee's decision to not call any further witnesses to testify and get to more information on the issue before the Justice or the Ethics Commissioner made his report?
Give me a second just to sort of repeat his questions for those who might not have heard it. That was Lyle phoning in, questions surrounding SNC Lavalin. Of course, Randy Boissonneau was part of the Liberal Justice Committee investigating, and so his question specifically is, do you have regrets about the way in which the Justice Committee investigated and how the committee sort of shut down investigation sooner than many people would have hoped?
Well, thanks very much for the call-in question. Let's just make one thing clear. The allegations of an RCMP investigation are false. What I can say is the role and my job and all of our jobs as a member of committee is to ask questions of witnesses and to get answers. And that was certainly what I did. I can tell you that I learned a lot, and I learned how I can do better. The Prime Minister has accepted the Ethics Commissioner's report, and I can tell you my way forward is what Anne McClellan put in her report as to what should happen with that role. The Attorney General and the Minister of Justice roles, she recommended be combined, and that there are protocols that we use to engage with that person in the future. And I think, look, I think it's important to say that we all learn in Parliament. I learned in Parliament. I know that I can do better, and I will do better.
Yeah, James Cumming, Heather, would you like to jump in on the issue?
Yeah,
of
so
SNC?
Randy, in justice, what you did was deplorable. You attacked a colleague. There was no reason for it. It was absolutely proof that what she was saying is true. She was speaking her truth. And you shut down the discussions. You said it was a witch hunt. It was wrong. Just admit it was wrong. I can tell you as an MP, I've built my career around ethical integrity, building businesses, gaining people's trust. I will never, ever be asked by someone within government to tell me to go after a colleague when I know they've done the right thing.
Heather McPherson.
Yeah, and there's one thing I think we really need to focus on here too, is that we had a prime minister in 2015 who said he was the first feminist prime minister, and I have a 14-year-old daughter, and my 14-year-old daughter watched women in positions of power lose that position and be discriminated against and be attacked by their own party. And that's really hard to talk to your 14-year-old daughter about. That was rough.
Yeah, Michael Kalmanovich.
Yeah. So I don't think it's just a Liberal thing. I think it's the entitlement of established parties like the Conservatives and the Liberals that think they can do things that aren't acceptable to us, that they can get away with it. The Conservative governments in the past have done crap like that. The Liberal governments that have done in the past have done crap like that. And we should not give them the opportunity to continue to do that and call them out for that.
Tyler Beauchamp from the People's Party of Canada, would you like to weigh in on the topic?
I'll say that's a really tough topic to weigh in on. I do understand that situations like SNC-Lavalin are absolutely wrong for this country. I do know recently the World Bank has listed Canada as one of the most corrupt countries when it comes to these allegations. Apparently we have 117 counts of corruption on their books. 115 of them are associated with SNC-Lavalin that the Liberal government has supported. So I just believe the first past the post system we have right now is absolutely wrong. We definitely need reform at that level. The other part, we need to understand that our government is like corporate governance in business. You're supposed to be accountable to your shareholders, and in this case, the Canadian people are the shareholders, and our government needs to be held accountable for their actions.
This is sure, Michael, one last.
So, the SNC-Lavalin did not start with the Liberals. It started with them as well, and the Liberals before that, and the SNC-Lavalin has been around for 50, 100 years. They do major projects here in Alberta. This did not start just with the present government. It started with them as well. So I just want to remind you about that.
All right, let's go back to we only have 8.5 minutes left on the show here, so let's go back to the audience. Emily has someone standing by who wants to ask a question, and if you're just tuning in, this is Alberta at Noon on CBC Radio. We have a live election town hall, and we have a gentleman in the audience with the microphone. Hello.
Very good, thank you. And thank you to all the candidates for taking time out of your busy campaigning to be with us. As a progressive Albertan, I'm really interested in NDPs, and now I learned just some minutes ago the Liberals' plan perhaps as well, to at least moving towards a more of a universal pharmacare and perhaps more of a moving towards, anyway, a more universal dental care as well. So to Ms. McPherson, I'm very intrigued by the idea, but I'm also very interested in how the NDP, and perhaps the other parties as well, would pay for such a program. Thank you.
All right, Heather McPherson.
Yeah, no, I'm incredibly proud of our platform for pharmacare. It is something that we have been promised by governments time and time again for the last 22 years. Our plan actually will have universal pharmacare, which means prescription drugs will be available, but it also includes mental supports and mental care support. It also includes dental care. So everybody says, that's great, we'd love that, but how are we going to pay for it? And I have to tell you, it's about choices. It's about the choices we make. We can make choices to give billion-dollar corporate tax cuts to corporations, or we can make choices to actually take care of those people that live in Canada. One of our strategies is going to be a wealth tax. We're going to look at we're going to make those people that are worth more than $20 million pay a little bit more. I mean, it's not really going to influence me. It's not going to be a big impact on my life, but I think that's an important part of it. We're going to make sure that we close tax loopholes. We're going to make sure life is a lot more affordable for people and not as easy for corporations to get away with.
All right, why don't we open this up to the other candidates? Pharmacare. Randy Boissonneau, the Liberals have said they would move ahead on it. How will it be funded?
Absolutely. Nobody should choose between their meals and their meds. And so we've already made moves in the last government to position ourselves to have a universal pharmacare system. Let's be clear. If any government rep or any opposition rep tells you they know what the system's going to look like, they're feeding you a line, because we're not going to know until we actually sit down and negotiate with the premiers. So I want a Liberal government negotiating with Premier Kenney, Premier Moe, Premier Pallister, Premier Ford, because Scheer's not going to do it. There's nothing in the plan of the Conservatives for pharmacare. It's something we missed as a government, as a community, as a country in the 80s. We're the only G7 country with a socialized Medicare system that doesn't have this. We have to do it. But we don't know the scope of it yet until we actually get into negotiating. And the way we're going to pay for it is out of the fact that we now have 1 million more Canadians working across this country. We have businesses that are performing well. We will find the revenues, we will invest, because the provincial healthcare system will save, the federal government will save money, and Canadians will be healthier. There should be nobody, when I'm on the doors making 120,000 attempts to reach out to Edmonton Centre residents, and I meet 2 doctors, and one woman says to me, please fund medicine, because a woman didn't afford her medicine over 6 months, and now she's with my husband treating her for dialysis every week. So from $200 a month to $10,000 a week, that's the kind of savings we're talking about.
James Cumming, the Conservative Party, what pharmacare? What
So I
priority
think
would it be?
the rational plan that we have to look at is look at those that really need the service. So about 95% people have plans in place. I think we should really focus on the people that do not have plans. I'm also very concerned when you throw out numbers. You know, the Liberals are running about $30 billion in deficits, annual deficits. They've ran up another $90 billion. I'm concerned for the kids' future, that if you run up that kind of debt, you have to find a way to pay it back. We need to find a way to, yes, do this better, but we also have to make sure that we don't mortgage the future for all our kids.
James, as a business person, you should know your facts. And our deficit this last year was $12 billion, because the economy is hammering so well across the country. I know Alberta has to do better. We have the healthiest balance sheet in the G7, and we are going to be able to do this because Canadians are asking us for it, and their health matters.
I want to let Michael weigh in on the issue of pharmacare.
So how many people in the room here have coverage for medicines? Is it 95% that have that? No. Oh, I don't think so. So thank you, Mr. Conservative. I think majority of Canadians are challenged over this. The Greens and the NDP and the latecomers over there are also interested in implementing a pharmacare across a nationalized pharmacare. I think that's a good thing for Canadians, and it will make life much more affordable for everyone. Thank you.
Tyler Beauchamp, do you want to jump in on the issue of pharmacare? We're coming close to the end of the show here.
Absolutely. The People's Party actually doesn't have a platform on pharmacare. Our platform on healthcare is actually to transfer the GST, which is roughly $40 billion, to the provincial government, who is ultimately accountable for healthcare in their provinces. We believe in a reduced government, less federal control, and I do believe Albertans will support that.
Well, we are out of time. We have so many questions left here, people who have phoned in, so I apologize if we were not able to get to your question today on the program. Know that we read everything that comes in, and it sort of infuses our coverage as we move forward. And so to all the candidates for joining us today over your lunch hour, thank you very much for taking time out, for running. We really appreciate. We had up on stage here with me today Michael Kalmanovich, running for the Green Parties in Edmonton Strathcona; Tyler Beauchamp, he is the candidate for the People's Party of Canada in Sturgeon River Parkland; Randy Boissonneau, the Liberal incumbent for Edmonton Centre; James Cumming, the Conservative candidate running against him; and Heather McPherson, trying to hold on to the NDP seat in Edmonton Strathcona. Thank you to all of you for coming out. It's always so fun to not be sitting all by myself in a studio and to be able to see you here with us today. All of you kids out there, grade 6 kids from Victoria Arts School. Yeah, thank you. And to your teachers, Ms. Tarabane, Ms. Adamson, Mr. Hayes, thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us. Thanks to the team at CBC Edmonton and Calgary for helping us put on this show. It takes a lot of work to bring a live audience together like this. And thanks if you were listening out there and anywhere in Alberta. We're so glad that you were part of us today on the program. Tomorrow, Phil Wilson, Leanna Robrecht will join me to talk about the essentials of a Thanksgiving meal. I'm Judy Aldis. Have a great afternoon, and let's meet back here Friday at lunch.